Hey, hey
Hey,
everyone.
hi Greg.
How you doing,
Hi everyone.
Christian?
Doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me. Getting
Great.
excited.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining. Thanks to everyone joining in as well. Great to have everyone. We've got hopefully a lot to cover in about 30 minutes, but we should be able to cover everything in full detail. So hopefully we've sort of sent out some prior comms before this meeting, and the purpose of the webinar is to basically dig into a little bit about something we're all discussing a lot at the moment, is the economic uncertainty. I mean, I don't know about you, Christian, but I feel like we're talking about this just as much as the weather at the moment. But I guess the premise of the meeting today and the webinar today is to sort of understand how innovation through technology can help mitigate some of these sort of expectancies around economic uncertainty. So great to have you here today, Christian. It would be great if possible just to understand a little bit more about yourself, a brief intro from yourself, sort of your role and a little bit more about Front Commerce, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. So I'm an experienced sales with over 15 years of experience in different software editors, exclusively on SaaS solutions. And I joined Front Commerce 1 year ago now as a partner manager. So my role is actually to help our partners that are agencies, system integrators that actually implement our solution for e-merchants. And our solution, Front Commerce, is actually a very innovative offering in the e-commerce space. So kind of the theme of the webinar today. I'd be happy to say more about our offering of a front end as a service when we get on with the slides.
Great stuff. And I guess just a little bit of context for potentially yourself, but sort of more of the people joining us and dialing in today. So nice to meet everyone, and obviously get to know yourself a little bit more today, Christian. But my name's Greg, Senior Account Director here at Attraqt, and ultimately Attraqt specialise in product discovery online. So we're the leading SaaS technology provider for what we call product discovery, and ultimately that means how we could combine on-site search, merchandising, and product and content recommendations together to create a more optimized and enhanced experience for customers navigating, websites online. So with that as well, it's sort of understanding how you can adopt those sort of different stages of the product discovery journey, and how you can, I guess, sprinkle a little bit of personalization on top of that to maximize that journey. So brands are constantly understanding, listening, talking to their customers to create a more relevant and accurate surface of products and content online to ultimately sort of achieve greater conversion rates and average order value and ultimately bottom line revenue. So that's a little bit more about Attraqt. But if we sort of dig in a little bit deeper into the webinar, we can start sort of harnessing some more understandings of what we're going to talk about today. So I guess the market, let's kick off with that, its current state. Christian, gonna love to get some thoughts from yourself on this as well, in terms of what you're seeing and hearing through conversations with customers. But I guess from my perspective, it can be quite subjective. There's lots of different opinions and data, given different industry sectors and regions on sort of how this is playing out. But I guess the old topic of recession and the economic uncertainty and what that means for how consumers are going to potentially sort of tighten their spending, basically online or in store. But like I said, it's quite a subjective topic from my perspective. We're definitely seeing sort of a mix of thoughts here at Attraqt. I mean, to the contrary on that, I think M&S released an article a couple of weeks ago just around them, holding strong in terms of profits by not discounting their products in the lead up to Christmas and sort of holding strong with full priced items. So that's quite interesting. I mean, Personally, I haven't stopped shopping. I don't know about you, Christian, but I was out of the weekend, and high streets and shopping centres were still absolutely mobbed. So that is a different side to sort of potentially take forward and think about. But either way, I think it's quite prevalent and obvious that retailers need to continue or start even more maximizing their customer experience online, and also in store and sort of other channels to make sure that they're in a good place moving forward throughout the next year or two. But what's your thoughts on that, Christian?
Yeah, well, I kind of totally agree on the fact that everybody's talking about their predictions for this year, and we're seeing a lot of information coming out.
Yeah.
What I think would be interesting today is really concentrate on things that are definitely not going to change, and there's no arguing about what should be the most priority for e-merchants in order to be successful in the e-commerce space in 2023. So I think that's going to be the main aim today. We hear stuff about metaverse, different kind of stuff, and composable and omni-channel, and okay, but where do we need to concentrate today in the world we've been living, and mainly for the past 3 years? I mean, things have changed so much on the technological part and regarding customer expectations and customer demand. And so I think this is where we're going to focus today to give a few takeaways on what is definitely not going anywhere, and what are the 1 or 2, 3 priorities e-merchants have in mind in order to be successful in this continuing growth on e-commerce, because we're going to see it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sort of, just looking at the other 2 points here is, acquisition. I mean, I'm from a background of customer loyalty, and, acquiring customers has always been more expensive than, retaining current customers. So, that's not going anywhere. So, I think the question is, how can brands either do a blend of both well, or sort of, maybe choose one or the other based on, market trends and, personal business objectives moving forward. And I think sort of, post-pandemic, some brands have seen a lucrative change. I think sort of, I read a stat recently where, UK online sales are now at sort of, 25% up from 19%, pre-pandemic. So it's sort of, an interesting shift, whether that's positive or a negative shift. And I think, again, either way, like you just said, Christian, it's about how they can focus on the right things to do moving forward through sort of technology, and how they can sort of best spend their investment to to get the best maximum return, shall we say. I think sort of when we look at consumer confidence, this range of stats on the left hand side here, it sort of shows that the global consumer confidence it does remain fairly stable. And there is an opportunity for international brands, shall we say, to potentially maximize moving forward, looking at sort of different markets, different regions to either improve upon or learn from, to sort of adopt in certain other markets as well. And there's some sort of key locations where consumer confidence is actually sort of holding very, very strong, or even improving. So being able to accelerate in those areas moving forward is sort of quite an interesting topic, if you agree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think everybody now is getting used to shopping online, either because they were forced to, or because it's just, I mean, cultural, and that's how they've grown. So everybody used to it. People are going to keep on doing it. There's no question about that. The thing is, expectations have changed regarding the information that I want to see regarding my favorite brand or the products I'm going to shop for. So we're no longer talking about personalization, but we're talking about hyper personalization. So that's even more important to provide what the customer is actually waiting for and expecting online, or even surprising him with information he was not expecting. So yeah, these main informations that I'd have in mind on that. Consumer confidence is there. Nevertheless, expectations have changed when consuming online.
Absolutely. As humans, we always expect more, don't we? And I think sort of that leads nicely on to what you just mentioned around there in terms of the sort of projections of growth within e-commerce, moving forward. So whilst we've got all of these things surrounding us around, economic uncertainty and recessions and sort of, maybe lack of consumer confidence moving forward, stats from Statista sort of show that e-commerce sales are set to grow, quite rapidly by 2025, which is sort of, a huge impact in terms of for 100% growth since 2019. You sort of already answered the next one on the list there in terms of sort of personalization. It's not just personalization now, it's hyper personalization. So how do we harness first-party data? How do we listen to our customers, and how do we react upon that within, strategies, trading strategies online to maximize the experience for consumers online? As we know, there's been quite a sort of, rapid expansion across shopping via social commerce, which is quite interesting. So, for brands, it's understanding that sort of omni-channel approach moving forward and how they can harness that to make sure it's not just online, it's through social, it's through app, it's through in-store, and how all of that data could be combined to sort of, maximize that strategy moving forward. So, with that said, it's interesting to sort of, see this scale moving forward to, pretty much show that e-commerce isn't going anywhere, and if sort of, brands and retailers get it right, we're able to, help maximize their, their projected revenue growth, over the coming years. So I might hand this one over to yourself. You've mentioned a couple of these key trends already, Christian, and I think it would be interesting to just sort of, tackle these head on, and then sort of, leading to these a little bit more, but definitely all current buzzwords. I hear it quite often, I'm sure you do as well, but, like you said, it's about how and when should they be prioritized. It's about how best and sort of, when and how to adopt investments in the right areas, which strategies have a proven ROI and therefore will enhance and improve the e-commerce performance moving forward. And I think I've got an idea of some new ones for me, but what would be sort of, your top 2 or 3 within this sort of, list, or other ones, for example, Christian?
What we're seeing, and from information gathered from our partners and our customers, everybody agrees to say that there's kind of a path to follow in order to achieve and to be able to do what we call composable commerce. What is composable commerce? It's the fact of composing your technical stack in order to personalize the service you're offering to your customers. So you're composing your personal e-commerce stack instead of buying a full suite stack that will propose every service, and even services you actually don't really need, but as you bought the whole suites, you will have these services also to offer. So instead of having one suite, you're going to be able to compose the services you're offering to your customer. And that's really key in the period we're living right now, because apart the fact that it's already have been proven that it's probably the future of e-commerce, because it's the best way to personalize the service that you're going to be offering to your customers. It's also probably the best way to gain time to market capabilities for your business and marketing teams. And that is absolutely necessary in an uncertain world that we're living, where you need to adapt to whatever is happening either on the market or in the customer needs or new technologies. So before studying sexy stuff such as metaverse or NFTs or blockchain, you need to be ready to iterate on these kind of subjects that have not yet proven their ROI. Well, anyway, from my point of view, I'd be happy to have a debate on that with a specialized company. But from what we hear on the market, metaverse, NFTs, blockchain are subjects that are not yet with a proven ROI. So definitely not the ones that are going to be chosen in the period that we're living, that we're going to live this year. Because of course, when you're in an economic uncertainty space, you have to choose things that have proven to work and to bring and generate a quick ROI. I'd keep AI in there because I think there's a link between AI and data, exploitation of data. You were mentioning data. I think that's a key subject also for your solution. In order to personalize what you're offering to your customer online and do hyper personalization, where you have to gather data and be able to exploit it and and use it to address the right service. So this one is kind of kept in there. But so if I have to mention two, I'd say composable at the end. But in order to go for composable, first you have to go through that case that is called headless, with that icon that is headless, because headless is the first step to composable commerce.
Completely agree. And I think sort of, quite simply here, when we are trying to answer, strategies that have proven ROI, I think once, we can understand and surface that, then it should make the question around how they can be prioritized a little bit simpler, by sort of, saying, well, during, uncertainty, budgets might be, slightly lower. What has a proven ROI should be ideally sort of, prioritized first. But completely agree. AI obviously is quite dear to our heart, and sort of, how you can automate these experiences as well. So I think we'll dig on a little bit into that, Christian, if okay with you. And I think you can basically just talk through in a little more detail around front end as a service with sort of, front commerce, and sort of, how we can reach this, headless approach to then sort of, attain a composable architecture moving forward.
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. And it's actually the innovative technology. Well, one of them is front end as a service. It kind of occurred like 10, 15 years ago. There was what we call a technological rupture in the e-commerce space, because things have actually changed with the maturity of APIs on the market, on the IT level. So what's the story? Generally before 10, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, what did you do in the e-commerce space? And this is still a majority of e-commerce stacks out there for major brands, is that you actually had a suite solution for what we call your backend. So the backend is everything that the online customer does not see. The website is actually what we're going to call the front end. So all your customer experience is included in the front end. That's an important thing to have in mind. So how did it work before front end as a service? You had your back end, and you generated a template to build your website that you could customize a little bit, or you develop from scratch totally your front end, your website. So there were these two solutions. Whatever the solution, they were totally linked to your back end, meaning whatever changes you wanted to make on your front end, well, you also had to make changes on a developer aspect on the back end. Then arrived APIs, then arrived new IT languages, and allowing actually to build foundations for your front end that will be agnostic of your back end. This means you can actually have your what we call monolith suite, which is what you see on the screen in black and white. Historical solutions such as Magento, for example, is what we call a monolith. Again, before you only had two options. Either you did a template to customize, either you did a custom website front end. Now you can actually take off these solutions, take off these front ends, and replace them with a foundation that will allow you to develop much faster and gain great time to market, whatever your backend. So you can plug it on your monolith backend. And this is actually something that is not a message that is not really spread to the market today. If I take it back a little bit, let's say today you're a company with a monolith solution and you want to go headless, meaning you want to separate your front end from your back end. I'm sorry, I don't know if there's a microphone put on, but I can hear a lot of noise. That's much better. So you can now, you have your monolith. You can now take off what we call the head, so the front end, and replace it with foundations such as our solution, front and as a service front commerce. That's what you see on the slide on the right.
Yep.
We keep the back end, but we replace the front with an agnostic solution that will bring great benefits. First, it has been thought and optimized for web performance, which is generally not the case when you buy a monolith and you generate templates. It's going to be linked to the back, so the fact of these separating both allows you to work just on the front end with foundations that are already there. So our partners, SIs, agencies will gain a lot of time when building the front end, but moreover, they're going to be able to bring more value because they're actually going to concentrate on what counts for the brand to bring authenticity online and stick to these customer needs regarding the fact of having a frictionless website, very, very fast, the possibility also to go through the products even offline. That is a possibility with the kind of technology that we use. So it will bring great benefits. Maybe the top benefit is time to market, because it allows you, as mentioned here, I think it's a Gartner or Forrester study, mentioning that headless will increase your time to market by 80%. And that is really a game changer in the context that we're living in 2023, because you have to be able to adapt fast and make changes on your front end even faster without depending on the technological aspects of your back end. That is why also it's 80% faster.
Makes complete
I hope
sense.
that was clear. I'm sorry that there's a lot of noise in the background. So
No, completely. It makes complete sense there, Christian. I think you know, when you look at that, it sounds quite scary in terms of understanding you know, a big switch versus something, you know, I guess called progressive migration. So that's an interesting concept as well, and I guess sort of links to what you mentioned there around time to market, right?
yes, you have actually two solutions to go headless. First one is the one that's the most easy to hear about because it's actually the message given by the market and a lot of new actors on this market that present their solution as a e-commerce headless platform. That's the first way. It means you're actually going to change your monolith, put it away, throw it away, put it in the dustbin, have an 18 to 24 months project, cost a bit of money, and bring an e-commerce headless ready platform that will replace your backend. And then you have three options now for your front end on this headless platform. That's the most expensive way to go headless. There is an alternative, which is the second part, which is actually just cutting the head of your old monolith solution, putting in a headless front end, and then you can concentrate on microservices and go for composable. The fact of just cutting the head and replacing it by a modern head with an API layer that will be able to exchange data with components or microservices. Why is it much faster? Because the project will take 3 to 4 months just to change the front end and not the whole suite. They're much faster to change. And once you've done that, 3 or 4 months, obviously it's going to cost much less. And you're going to concentrate on your front. So you're going to concentrate on customer experience, on everything, on the emotions that your customers have online, without having to interfere with the complexity of the back end. And that is a real game changer of business people and marketing people. I see we only have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to go a bit faster. But there is one thing important. It's actually that our kind of solution also changed the mindset. To put it briefly, instead of having a big bang and changing your platform, as I mentioned, and it takes 18 to 24 months, maybe more because you're going to have a delay in the project, you can actually change your front in 3 or 4 months, and then change, for example, your search solution to have a best of breed search solution, and then change the payment. So you're going to have micro projects of 3 months where you're going to be able to measure the return on investment on each point and concentrate on each point. It's a bit what we have here on the theme, and I might not go into detail of this. Bottom line, once you've done that and you have a real Yeah, SaaS front end as a service with good foundations. The main point you're going to impact is your web performance. And when you're talking about web performance, you're talking about page speed, bounce rate, conversion rate. We have digits from our customers that have up to double their conversion rate online
Wow.
before and after putting our front end as a service in place. So it's, yeah, it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sort of, creating and getting to that sort of, headless and composable, architecture approach moving forward, like you said, then there's the ability to then bring in, best of breed microservices. For example, you've got here, search API. So how then that sort of, links in something like Attraqt as a product discovery, experience-led platform and tool to sort of, see how that improves what we call relevance moving forward. And I think this is something just quickly interesting to touch on, and sort of how we see this as sort of being a key hygiene factor really moving forward for brands that want to sort of hold strong and maximize their performance and customer experience online. And we sort of had a bit of a research done by London Research where actually around about 80% of sort of brands and retailers sort of came back and said customers don't really know what they're looking for until they see that sort of product or element of content surfaced on site. So that's an interesting aspect here, and I actually think quite interestingly e-commerce brands sort of have a bit of upper hand here, because if you maximize and couple a sort of intelligent product discovery platform along with data and hyper personalization, these brands actually have the ability to change their trading strategies quite rapidly, almost overnight, as opposed to sort of in stores and physical stores where it might take a little bit longer. So having those and sort of harnessing a very, very good technology to improve trading experiences moving forward, then that creates a more relevant experience for the customer, a more accurate experience for the customer. And if they're having a good experience online, that then equates to sort of like you said, greater conversion rates, greater increases of average order values, which then all equate to hopefully the the bottom line revenue. So I think this is sort of definitely for me one key takeaway is sort of adopting good technology with data and adapting hyper personalization to that to create better and sort of more exceptional experiences online, online for shoppers. So I might just quickly skip, because I'm just looking at the time now here, Christian, as well, just to sort of sum up some key takeaways from today. And I'd love to sort of open up the floor to any questions as well, or sort of even Christian, if you've got any questions. But maybe whilst we wait for those to come in, whilst we understand that all of these takeaways here are very, very key, what would be 2 or 3 of your main ones after sort of the discussion today, Christian?
With all we've mentioned, I think I'd keep in mind, if I was an e-merchant, to really go for the solutions that have a proven ROI. Yep. On that aspect. For example, I generally do simulations with e-merchants that are a bit curious on the subject. So if anybody's listening and curious about studying the ROI for going headless with a front end as a service, I'd be happy to provide it. So proven ROI. I think adapt fast is really a key takeaway. So any solutions that's going to bring you a better time to market and allow you to test and learn and iterate very fast is also important, and have in mind this composable aspects, because clearly everybody's going for composable, because now the solutions are ready to communicate together. And there is something I didn't mention regarding our solution, that we also centralize all the data coming for all the microservice solutions, so the best of breed solutions that compose the stack. We're kind of in the center of it, taking all the data from everywhere. So we're capable, for example, of giving an alert to the customer on what is the microservice that is not working as it should work. And that is an important point on this aspect of headless or composable, because sometimes one of the frictions or the objections for any merchants to go composable is, okay, great, if I have a composable stack and I have a problem on my website, how do I know who's not respecting his SLA, for example? So this is something we also provide in the service. So move fast, ROI proven solutions, definitely, and customer experience. I mean, everybody's going to focus on whatever brings a better customer experience, allowing you to improve your conversion rate.
Great stuff. That sums it up really nicely. Can't believe how quickly that half an hour went, but we've managed to get through quite a lot there. Definitely some key insights into front commerce and what that can achieve for customers. We're obviously able to answer any questions if we still sort of have anyone still on the line, and of course we're here to follow up with, have further conversations, I'm sure, and we'll be sort of posting this information in due course as well. But really appreciate your time today, Christian. Hope it's been interesting and sort of good to chat through. But yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and the invitation.
You're welcome. Great stuff. Thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll chat very soon again and hopefully plan V2 of the webinar.
Great. Yeah, maybe at the end of the year, sum up the year 2023 and see how it went on these innovations.
Then we've discussed is actually come to fruition. So there we go.
Cool, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christian. And thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate it.